All right. It's Rod Bergeron here with you, and today we're out here looking at this little barn, and I'll show you a picture of it. And I wanted to talk to you today about brown. You know, it's kind of early spring. There's a little bit of grass around, but here and there. I'm kind of sitting on the side of the road, so hopefully I don't have to get up and move. I've done a little pencil drawing on this piece of Canson watercolor paper, and I don't normally draw in pencil, but I decided today I would give it a try and see what we're going to do. I normally draw in black pen, but I really wanted to focus today on brown, getting the brown that you're looking for, trying to figure out how to get a specific brown. And since it's early spring, there's a lot of brown, so I got my pencil and my eraser. One of the reasons I don't like to draw in pencil, and you've probably heard me say this, is because you can erase, and I'm not a big believer in erasing. I think it slows you down a lot, and it slows down the process, and it doesn't become quite as an intuitive drawing as or painting if you have to stop and erase, because you have the opportunity to stop and erase. But if you're just getting used to drawing and painting outside, maybe slowing down and stopping and erasing is a good thing. Maybe you're not comfortable working in just pen. That's perfectly fine. Then just grab a pencil and work in graphite. Anyways, let's have a go at this. So I got out here Canson watercolor paper, Sennelier paint set. I got a 1/2 inch flat brush and a number 4 Winsor Newton round brush. Probably my favorite brush. I'm going to set these over to the side. I also have a tissue. I have my glasses in case I need them. I'm wearing my sunglasses right now. It's sort of cloudy, sunny, so you never know what it is you're going to need. As always, I'm going to use just a little bit of water, a very little bit of water. As always, I'm going to fill up a couple of these little wells on the side here. You fill up whatever it is that you normally fill up, and let's get at it. So I'm going to make this into a gray day. Today it's kind of gray one minute, sunny the next. So I'm going to wet this whole area that I want to be all background. I'm going to put that on there, keep it fairly wet, tip our page, let it run down, let it run to wherever it is that you want your gray sky to be, but the areas that you want it to go into. Remember, one of the pieces of magic about watercolor paper is that it's only going to get wet where you want it to be wet. And that's not too bad. That's okay. I think we're going to leave that just the way it is. But like I said, today I really wanted to concentrate on brown. And we probably all have brown in our watercolor set. Most watercolor sets come with a brown. I think that it's a good starting point. And I think the way that you have to think about brown is a dirty orange. All right, that's how I consider brown. I consider it brown that has had something else added to it, and it's usually green, to tell you the truth. It's usually orange plus green will get you to brown. But how you get to orange is by adding yellow and red, right? Yellow plus red equals orange. So brown is just a dirty version of orange. That's how I always consider it. That's how I make it. That's how I get to have that color on my page when I'm making brown. So what I want to do today is I just want to start with the brown that I already have in my palette. And I have some right here that I have previously enjoyed, and so I'm going to just wet that up a little bit. And if you look in the background here, you'll see that there's a long line. We'll put the picture up. There's a long line of hills in the background. they're fairly gray. I'm not going to put them in right now because I'm going to wait for this gray on my for my sky to dry up before I put those in. But I'm going to make those sort of a gray kind of a brownish tinge. But for right now, I want to concentrate on this area in front of the barn, and you'll see here that most of this is sort of a muddy kind of a field, and I'm just going to use my brown that I have in my watercolor set, and I'm going to wet this page a little bit more, and I'm just using a very thin wash. I'm going to do the barnyard area here mostly with this. Maybe a little bit in here. Okay, and that's basically all that I'm going to do for that. Maybe I'm going to put a little bit more up in here, just like that. Okay, now if you look at this barn, it's made out of wood, but it's a lot of gray. Well, I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to take some water into this little washy brown area here, and I'm going to put a little bit of brown paint into that. So you see I'm making it, this is called saturation. I'm adding a lot of pigment into that bit of water there. So I'm increasing the saturation. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to add this onto this barn on the top area, and you'll see that the top area is made out of wood, and the bottom area is actually made out of concrete. So that's all I'm going to do for that. Just going to put that in there like that. So I used the same brown, I just increased the saturation. Now I have on the side here a little bit of paint in an area that I didn't want it in. Why? Because this thing is green. So we're going to come back to that in a few minutes when this is a little bit drier. I'm going to move some of this water in that sky. So one of the great ideas about having your paint set attached on here with this is that I can actually tip this and I can move this around, and I don't have to worry about my paint set spilling over. You know, if you tip it too much, you're going to get this paint to run out of here. So, you know, you want to avoid that, but in general. So I have a tissue here. I'm going to put some of this color up to this end of the page. I'm going to touch this on here. I'm just going to suck some of that right off, so I'm not worried about it moving around on my page all the time. Okay, so this brown has started to dry up a little bit. This brown has started to dry up a little bit. We have this ditch area here, and this ditch area here is a brown that has some yellow into it. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to take this, I'm going to clean off a little area here. I'm going to mix up some yellow. So I'm going to take my small brush, I'm going to put some water here. This is sort of my version of a clean water. I'm going to put some water here. I'm going to pick up some yellow, quite a bit of yellow. I'm going to put that into this. Make it a little bit thinner. Then I'm going to take some of this yellow and put it into this brown. Now, pick up a little bit more water, put it into this, test it on the side of my page. It's not quite what I'm going for. I'm going to pick up a little bit more yellow, put it into this, test it on the side of my page. Now that's sort of what it is that I'm going for, that sort of intensity. And now I'm going to put this right up into this ditch area right here. See, that's much oranger than the previous brown. I'm going to pick up a little bit more. I'm going to put it on here, on this little field on the right. And you can see how this is starting to come together already. I'm going to take a little bit more of this, and I'm going to put this across the bottom here as a bit of a shadow under there. And it'd probably be better off if I took my smaller brush and put that on there. You see I got a little bit of a bleed coming out of there. Just pick that up with your tissue. Don't worry about it. Okay, got a little bit more bleeding out there. It's all right. Okay, that's coming right along. Okay, so this bottom down here is all gray, and inside this area and inside this area and these windows are all fairly dark. I'm going to do that now. So I'm just going to, and we're going to wet this area right here because this is the road. Okay, that's coming right along. So again, back to the brown. So in here, this is a little bit of a muddy field. Now before we added yellow to it to make it lighter. Now we're going to go and we're going to take this same brown, we're going to put a little bit more water into this because it's starting to dry up a little bit. And now we're going to take a little bit of red, just a little bit of red on our brush and put that into this. We're going to try this on the side of our page. You see that went quite a bit red, a little bit redder than I was looking for it to go. I'm going to pick up a little bit more brown, put that back into this, mix it up, a little bit more water, give it a try. That's a little bit better. We're going to take this, we're going to put a little bit of this in through our muddy little barnyard here, just like that. Pick up some more water. Like that. That's coming right along. Okay, that's not too bad. Now, if I asked you, what is the complement of red, which this is sort of turning a little bit reddy brown, you're going to say to me the complement of red is green. And the great thing for us is that we don't even have to fake it today. This piece of the barn here is actually green. So I love it when I don't have to fake it. Okay, so the roof on the barn and this little side shed here is actually made up of, it's a metal roof. And the way that I like to make my metal roofs look is, I like to make them a little bit of a bluey kind of a gray. So I'm going to use this blue and this black. That's it. That's actually not too bad. I'm going to take a little bit of paint off there. A little bit of paint off there maybe. Okay. Okay, that's coming right along actually. So we got in here our reddish brown, our sort of a bluey kind of a gray tinge for our roof there, and now we need to do a little bit more in this ditch area here. So I think this ditch area here could be, we could make that a little bit wetter. And actually that color that I had on my brush from the dirty water is actually pretty close to what it is that I was going for. So don't mess with a good thing. This here is a little puddling where I don't really want it to be. This area down here being white is actually turning out pretty good, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it. So my sky's turning out to be the gray that I wanted it to be. We have to put in this little area of hill in the background here. And if you remember at the beginning, I said I really wanted it to be a grayish brown. So I'm going to wet that area. I'm going to wet it here. It's not going to be super wet. It's going to be just sort of dirty water wet. I'm going to try to not do these telephone poles. or hydro poles. I guess people in the world are wondering what I'm talking about with hydro poles, but hydro is how we talk about electricity in Canada. Hydro being water. A lot of our electricity is generated from water. So I'm going to take my tissue again. There's some color bleeding out along there that I really don't want to be. So I'm just going to touch that up a little bit. Now I have this area wet where I wanted my brown trees in the background to be. So I'm going to take a little bit of water into this greenish gray color that I had here before. And remember, I was using that for the rooftop to add a little bit of a tinny kind of a look to that. But I want there to be a brown that has a bit of green in it. And remember, initially I said brown is a dirty version of orange. And the way that I dirty my orange up, is I put green into my orange to make it into brown. So what happens if we take brown, like this brown, and put it into this green? What do we get? Well, we get another version of brown. That shouldn't have surprised you, because I told you orange plus green gives you brown. So what happens if we test this on the side? You see, it's even a different version of brown. So what happens if I put this into this area that's already wet on here? What are we going to get? Well, I'm going to get a little bit too much paint there, so I'm going to touch my tissue to it, take some of that out, and I'm going to put some of this into here. And I'm just going to let it bleed to wherever it is it wants to go. I got a little buddy here. Don't really want that little bug on my painting. I don't want him to dry in there, so shoo him off there. Okay, so we have quite a bit of this has actually turned out really well for me. If you know me, you know that a lot of my demonstrations don't turn out really well. This one here has actually turned out really good for me, sort of what it is that I'm expecting. So I have to put in now these telephone poles, or do I? That's the question. Do I have to do anything else to these telephone poles, or are these things reading as telephone poles without me doing anything to it? I think it's kind of reading as telephone poles without me doing anything to it. So this one might be done. So I'm going to call it done. Knowing when to quit is a big part of making great art. Okay, so let's review. Brown, dirty orange. How do I make my orange? I make orange by adding yellow and red. Yellow plus red equals orange. How do I get my orange to go brown? I add green to it. Okay, what's green made out of? Yellow and blue. So whenever I have brown and I want to make it into a lighter brown, I add yellow to it. Whenever I want to make my brown a darker brown, I add blue to it. The other key here is that green will change your orange or change your brown into lots of different colors. Try varying your colors all the time. Try varying your orange, try varying your brown all the time. You'll see here, I just used a couple of real simple techniques. I changed stuff around, got it to go in the direction that I wanted it to go into. Real simple, easy painting. Give it a shot. If you learned anything from this, please give me a like. If you're currently a subscriber, I thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for sticking around at the end. If you want this painting, I'm willing to give it to you. I want you to go out and I want you to watch 4 of my videos. And at the end of watching 4 videos, I want you to click done. I want you to say done, and I want you to give me a thumbs up on all of them and become a subscriber. If you do that, I'm going to sign this and I'm going to mail it off to you. Thanks a lot. There's a little red spider on there. That's kind of cool. And if you're not currently a subscriber, why aren't you currently a subscriber? I really need you to subscribe to my channel so that I know people are watching me. Go out and watch me. I'm going to do craziness. You might like it. You might report me, but you might like it. Who are you going to report me to anyways? The authorities? What authority?